Hey guys, so in this one, what I want to discuss is this issue right here. Hillary Clinton, John Podesta, and the UFO disclosure issue. Now, I made a comment in one of my live YouTube videos a week or two ago discussing John Podesta and the UFO disclosure phenomenon. And a few people were kind of curious, right? Because when you hear John Podesta and his emails and everything that's gone on the past year or so, what do you think? You think Pizzagate and satanic Luciferian practice and all that jazz, right? But little do a lot of people know is that there was much more than just pizza, cheese, and hot dogs mentioned in these WikiLeaks emails. There was UFO disclosure and zero-point energy and extraterrestrial intelligence mentioned in them too. So what I'm going to do is take you through a chronological order of events to give you kind of some background, and then I'll give you some commentary and my opinions at the end. So we're going to start right here in 1994 with what was called the Rockefeller Initiative. Now, what occurred is that some documents were obtained via the Freedom of Information Act back in the mid-90s. And what this showed is that there was actually an effort by Lawrence Rockefeller, the Lawrence Rockefeller that has his ranch near the Teton Mountains in Wyoming, that Rockefeller, and he was trying to have the US government, by way of Bill Clinton's administration, basically declassify and disclose a bunch of stuff regarding UFOs, okay? And I'm not going to get too much into this. You can do some of your own research on the Rockefeller Initiative specifically. You know, I don't want to name any names and have some guilt by association and whatnot, but all I want to tell you right now is that it included Hillary Clinton and John Podesta. And in fact, there were actually some pictures leaked of Hillary Clinton meeting with Lawrence Rockefeller in 1995. I'll show them right here real quick, where you can actually see Hillary Clinton with a book in hand, and this book mentions aliens. So it's we don't have to stretch our imagination or speculate. We know Hillary Clinton is interested in the subject, and I'll spell a little bit more about John Podesta's interest in it down here. So they know some things, no doubt about it. Fast forward to about 2002, about 7-8 years later. This is when John Podesta spoke at the NPC, the National Press Conference, on the Freedom of Information Act, and what he was actually discussing. Now, it wasn't for Dr. Stephen Greer's Disclosure Project briefing at the National Press Club. It was a separate event, but John Podesta was still talking about UFOs. And he basically began publicly supporting declassification and release of government documents, of classified government documents. So he began publicly discussing the issue back in 2002, right? But at this time, in 2000, that's when George Bush entered office. 2008, he left, and then Obama got in for 8 years. So there was a little bit of a lull, kind of a break that, of course, Clinton and Podesta and this faction, this gang, you could call it, they took a break. Fast forward, though, to 2015. This is really when things start heating up in the past 2.5 years or so. February 2015, this is when John Podesta tweets his famous or infamous tweet where he said his biggest failure of 2014 was not securing this disclosure of UFO documents. Interesting. Very, very interesting. So, I mean, John Podesta is taking this issue very seriously. He's not ridiculing it. He's actually trying to secure some kind of declassification of documents, right? So that was in February 2015 when John Podesta laid that tweet out. And mind you, at this time, John Podesta was acting as counselor to Obama, okay? So John Podesta's always been in touch with the Clintons. He was working with the Clinton administration when Bill Clinton was in office up here, and then he was working for Obama in here. Then he acts as Hillary Clinton's campaign manager come end of 15 into 2016, right? And this is where things start heating up. So in March 2016, this is when Hillary Clinton appears on Jimmy Kimmel. Some of you might have seen this video, and there's some interesting notes I want to make about it. So when she was on Jimmy Kimmel does what he basically always does when any president is on his show, or ex-president, I should say, he asks him about the UFO issue and Area 51 and all that jazz in a very light-hearted manner, not seriously, you know, of course, being Jimmy Kimmel. But what Hillary Clinton says is that she says, I will go into the UFO files, and if I'm elected, I'll make everything known, right? She's acting as she's going to make all these secrets known to the public. And she also made an interesting comment where she says there's a new nomenclature, right? She goes, we're calling it UAP, Unexplained Aerial Phenomena. Basically how she says it. So what she's doing on this show is acting like she's a woman of the people for truth, right? And what she's also doing is trying to rebrand the UFO issue. Because for so long, ever since the Air Force made up the terminology UFO in the late 50s, early 60s, there's been this connotation of ridicule with it, right? So what she's trying to do is rebrand it, make it more official, call it Unexplained Aerial Phenomena. So this way, people will start taking it more seriously, and then she's rebranding that live on national television in front of millions of people, so when people think of UFOs, or wait, no, I want to call that Unexplained Aerial Phenomena. That's how I call it now, because of Hillary Clinton, right? Because she's a woman for the people. She wants the truth to come out. Let that ruminate in your mind for a sec until I get to my points down here. So that happened in 2016, March, and then come later in 2016, we all know what happened by way of Podesta's emails. So Podesta's emails dropped, shoot, it's almost a year ago now, can you believe that? So these emails dropped beginning in early October of 2016. And of course, we had all the references to pizza and cheese and hot dogs and all that jazz. You can do your own research into that stuff. But what also dropped in these emails was information on UFOs. And just go into the WikiLeaks, right? wikileaks.org/Podesta-emails/ do a search. Search keywords in the Podesta emails. I invite you to search UFO. You can also search disclosure. That's a good word to throw in there to get some good emails to pop up. I'm not going to go through all the emails because it'd actually be quite a few for me to go through that mention UFOs and disclosure, but I do want to outline some of the important points of what occurred. So Podesta was actually emailing with these folks right here in the 2015-16 time frame, basically when this and this was going on. So a few of the people that emailed John Podesta was some of this list right here. Tom DeLonge, right? One of my favorite bands of all time, Blink-182 and Angels and Airwaves. Interesting, he was emailing that dude. The famous Dr. Ed Mitchell, sixth man to walk on the moon, former Apollo astronaut. You know, again, I don't want to do any guilt by association stuff. I absolutely love Dr. Edgar Mitchell's work. I think he did a great job with his Institute of Noetic Sciences and his outspokenness on the UFO issue. But then there was a couple other folks that were in these emails. And that is, well, they were mentioned. They weren't emailing with Podesta, but they were mentioned. Tom DeLonge was emailing with him, but in some of Tom DeLonge's emails, this guy, General McCasland, who was the head of the Air Force Space Command, he's a general in the Air Force, and then this guy, Rob Weiss, he's the director of Lockheed Skunk Works, Lockheed's, you know, secretive classified projects, at least on the books classified. We don't know about the unacknowledged stuff, but that's another discussion. So, interesting, right? Podesta was talking about literal disclosure, UFO disclosure with Tom DeLonge, McCasland, Rob Weiss. A kind of younger crowd celebrity in Tom DeLonge, and then some Air Force connections right here. And then Tom DeLonge also was discussing with John Podesta how he was meeting with a lot of Hollywood executives about creating content to spread the message of disclosure of UFOs and what he called secret machines, right? He had that book entitled Secret Machines where he wanted to disclose a lot of this technology that's been hiding away and yada yada. So not only was Pizzagate stuff mentioned, but we had UFO things in the emails mentioned as well. So big question, what the heck happened? What's going on? So here's my theory. Here's my speculations. In my opinion, what this camp was doing is that they were planning a UFO disclosure if Hillary Clinton was to get into office. Because keep in mind, back in 2015, early 16 even, you know, a lot of people weren't waking up to the point that they were now. And mind you, there was still some people that knew about all the conspiracies and all that jazz, but not to the point that we have now after the WikiLeaks emails and all that stuff. So, in my opinion, what Clinton was doing, what was being set up for literally decades was a UFO disclosure, but it was going to be a half-assed disclosure, a partial disclosure. It was going to be disclosing the UFO issue, but just a few pieces of it, right? We got the Air Force and Lockheed right here working to give like a half-assed disclosure, but hide everything else, right? Hide Hillary Clinton's involvement in that issue. Hide Hillary Clinton's involvement in CIA drug trafficking, or even look up the murder cover-ups that the Clinton family was involved in back in Arkansas in the 80s. MENA, for a good keyword right there. So that's what essentially was going to occur. And the Air Force and CIA, different CIA contacts, looked like they were working with Hillary Clinton and John Podesta to bring out that partial half-assed disclosure. But then this was never calculated. And also Donald Trump winning the election was never calculated. They already assumed, we got it bagged. We got those voting machines tampered. We're already going to get in the office and get our disclosure phenomenon to wow the population with, to wow everybody with, and make them forget about all the deep, dark stuff that we're into. See what I'm saying there? Doesn't it all kind of make sense that way? So that's exactly what they were planning, in my opinion, is to disclose the UFO issue, but only disclose a little bit of it. And work with the Air Force and the CIA to bring that about, hide all the trafficking stuff that goes on, but also hide many of the deeper unacknowledged programs or black projects that are in the military-industrial complex. And ever since, 2015-16 came out, we had, of course, William Tompkins, the Navy whistleblower, discuss deep space programs that were beyond what the Air Force believed they had. So you got to understand that even if you're a general in the Air Force, you might not be read in on everything. There might be unacknowledged projects that you might not know. So that's what I want to lay out to you, is that I think these guys were trying to pull some half-assed disclosure that was stopped by elements within, you could say the Alliance or the Department of Defense or whatnot. She didn't get in the office. He didn't, get into office with her. This stuff came out. They weren't able to pull their partial UFO disclosure. And now we have elements of course, the Navy discussing their Solar Warden faction and deeper factions than these people probably ever thought existed, and advocating for more of a full disclosure than a partial disclosure. So that's what I want to outline to you. And that's what's really important to understand, is that I think these people and whoever they're aligned with are still vying. They're still trying to pull that partial disclosure, but it's not working anymore because too many people know what they're into with this stuff. And we also have like William Tompkins, Randy Kramer, Corey Good, and I could drop more names, but people coming out discussing these deeper Navy programs and these Navy-aligned factions that are vying for a more full disclosure. So, and hey, I just want to say that in this whole UFO disclosure community, there's certain people's work who I love and I still learn from and I still watch and read. But if anybody in this disclosure or UFO community is affiliated with them, I got some serious questions for you, man. It doesn't mean you're, of course, guilt by association, guilty of anything, but are you like blind about something? I don't know why Tom DeLonge voted for Hillary Clinton and his like friends are trying to work with John Podesta. Maybe he just doesn't know. You can never assume someone's awareness level, you know? And, for instance, Dr. Stephen Greer briefed John Podesta in Obama's administration in like 2008 or 2009. So, you know, I love Dr. Stephen Greer's work. Nothing on it. I've watched Sirius many times. Watched Unacknowledged just the other day. But if I'm really going to get behind your work and be more happy and confident about what you're doing in service of humanity, some questions got to be answered. Done.